Jeff, you're live now. You're good.
Okay. Can you see me and hear me, Ricky?
Yes.
Okay. Unfortunately, I've lost one of my windows, so I can't see everybody else. But I'm just gonna kind of motor through this right now. Stick with me here. So
hold on, Jeff.
Yes.
Mute for 1 second. I'm gonna call you. There's a.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second. No, you're good. That was me. You're good. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. My only concern right now is I may have lost I can't seem to pull up everybody else's window right now. So I can't see anybody or hear anybody yet. And let me see if I can fix that. Hey, Ricky. Ricky, are you still there?
Yep, I am. What's up?
I can see you and I can see me and I cannot see anybody else,
That's because you're sharing your PowerPoint. While you're sharing the screen, you're only going to be able to see the PowerPoint at the moment.
All right, that's fine. Okay, so let me do this then. So we are, and I apologize to everybody. We had a problem and we had to reset all of the YouTube links, but we are now live. So where we are, just for everyone's benefit, we did do our roll call. We do have a full house of our steering committee. I have gone through the agenda and what I'm going to do very quickly is talk to you about where we are in the overall process. So once again, we are focused on the Corrections Center and the Sheriff's Administration. We're for now putting off our conversation on the courts, which will continue subsequently. So I want to remind everybody of where we are in the process. And while we're going to talk about design of the continuing design for the new Corrections Center, I want to point out to everybody that design is just one of several workflows that we have to be working on concurrently. So we'll focus on design for a few minutes today, but at the same time, we have all these concurrent simultaneous operations. We have property acquisition, and we will talk more about that. And we'll have an executive session about property acquisition for the new site today. Implementation of a funding plan. It's obviously critical that we understand how this project is paid for. The county is actively looking at its options right now for funding this. We know we're going to generate significant savings, but we still have to fund this project in the first instance. The operations plan and eventual transition plan. While we are focusing on design, we have to continue to focus on how this facility will be operated and actually how aspects of the justice system will be operated. Everything from IT to how transportation will work, to eventual transition from a current vertical jail to a horizontal jail. So the operational planning goes hand in hand with the building design, and that is a parallel workflow. Continuing implementation of population management. This is something that we have to continue to work on and can't forget about. Just keep in mind that the current plan for the jail contemplates a core function for 2,400 detainees, and that but the housing units we are building anticipate 1,600 housing units. Tremendous cost savings if we can just build for 1,600, and there's a lot of other reasons to do that. It's expandable, but we don't want to expand that unless necessary, and that implies a jail population of 1,350. We are over 1,350 right now. The last time I checked into this, we were around 1,500, maybe more, maybe less. But we have to consistently have that jail population at around 1,350 and get there to maximize what we are talking about. Now, obviously, the steering committee did commit to this plan based on continuous efforts to manage jail population. We talked about all these many different ideas, and we're implementing them. Interim central booking as a prelude to central booking will be important. The diversion opportunity and continue to drive that will be important. Everything having to do with bail reform and pretrial release everything involved with improving the management systems. We have talked about having a jail expediter and overall process coordinator. Those were discussions we had. All of this has to continue to be explored to make the jail plan really effective and get the jail population down. But for right now, we're going to focus on design and the next steps. At the last meeting in March, we talked about the bridging design build approach, which was approved. And we said the first step, now that programming is done, is the selection and the initial work of the criteria architect. So for the criteria architect, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to have Nicole English walk you through what was done, because we have taken these steps. We have gone through the qualifications-based selection process and the shortlisting process. Nicole will work you through that. We are right now just finalizing our negotiations in terms of a possible contract fee, et cetera. But Nicole will walk you through that right now for the hopeful approval of the group. But we also talked last time about what these initial scope, the initial scope of work will be. And what I want to do before we talk about who will do it, I want to talk about what it's going to be, and in particular, the timing of it and what the steering committee will be, how the steering committee will be involved, when we will come back to the steering committee and for what. So just as a reminder, we've completed a jail program. That program is over 300 pages in length and quite detailed. It shows every single thing that has to be in this facility and the nature of how it's in the facility. So the first thing that we do when we get our criteria architect on board is we go through program confirmation. We think that's going to take approximately 3 months from start to finish to do everything right. And what does that mean? Well, obviously, the team has to have a thorough understanding of the initial program, and we want them to challenge and test the program while still respecting it. We want all the underlying goals, principles, everything in that program that we thought was so important, we want to achieve. But we obviously want to take a second look, challenge it, and test it. And I will tell you that you obviously know that we do have a change from the programmer to the criteria architect. Even if our original programming team had gone to this next step, they still would have, with an independent team within their group, challenged and test the program. That's a normal part of the process that we want to undertake. And, you know, we may find that there's efficiencies in some areas. We may find that we can reduce some costs by combining some functions in the program and still obtaining the same thing. But we will test the program while respecting it, and then confirm the final program. If there's any adjustments, we will, if there's anything material, we'll of course come back and present that to the steering committee. You know, presumably there'll be nothing that's material. It'll be mostly in detail. But if there's any modifications of any significance, it comes back to the steering committee. We then want to confirm a program level budget and schedule. Once again, working with that team, you know, what do we think the budget is? Any revisions? And there will be. What are we now seeing as the schedule from what I'm showing you here? And then we're also going to confirm a test fit of this design or of the program with the target sites. We know that we are going to, by this time, have some sites that we're looking at. A group of sites. We want to make sure that the program would fit within the sites that we want to continue to explore. Ultimately, we have to obtain approval from the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections, ODRC. They're part of this the whole way through. And so we go to them and we get confirmation of the program. That's about a 3-month process. The next thing, once that program is confirmed, we go into schematic design. That's about another 3-month process. And here, this is really taking that fully fleshed out confirmed program and now converting it to the first set of drawings. These, as I talked about it in March, these are line drawings. They're going to lay out the entire project. They're going to show adjacencies. They're going to show how everything relates to everything, all the square footages. It'll all be laid out in schematic design. We will reconcile the schematic design with what we believe is our budget and a schematic design estimate, making adjustments as necessary. We will confirm the design for the approved site. We would hope that by this time, we have at least understood what site we are trying to secure. Hopefully, we will be closer to getting that secured, and we're going to want to make sure that the specific schematic design works on the specific site that we want to utilize. And then, of course, we will obtain approvals at the end of schematic design. UR1 approval, we'll get approval from the steering committee of the schematic design. Obviously, the county independently has to approve of the schematic design, and particularly the schematic design budget. And we go back to the Ohio Department, the ODRC, because once again, this is a state approval at schematic design. The next iteration, and by the way, that was 3 months. The next iteration is design development, a major component of what this criteria architect does. We are now taking schematic design and putting every design element into the drawings. So this is very detailed drawings that show every quality, every quantity, all the materials. And this is about 4 months to do a full DD package. It has to be in conformance with what's already been approved with the schematic design. We reconcile it with a cost estimate and the budget. By the way, one thing I should point out, by the time before schematic design is even done, we will have retained our design builder and architect of record. So we will actually be working side by side with the ultimate design builder in terms of cost estimating. But at the end of this phase, once again, we're going to obtain, we have to get approval of the final design development, because this is really going to show everything we're going to build. And once again, we go back to the steering committee and to the county and ODRC for design development approval. If there's any early packages, this can be done during this phase. And an early package would be if we secure our site, if we have to do demolition on the site, if we have to do some site clearing, we can put out early packages and get that work started even before, we're obviously, completing design of the project itself. Now, the design development package is most of what is in the so-called GMP pricing documents. But what happens now is we extend that phase for another 2 months, and we prepare what are called the GMP documents. These are the documents from which we get the guaranteed maximum price by the design builder. And they prepare the GMP documents with our assistance and what's called a design narrative for GMP pricing. That's a highly technical process that we'll talk about later on. But at the end of that process, that is when we get the guaranteed maximum price. And that is, by the way, when we can commence real initial construction, because by that time we will have these early packages. We'll have confidence that we know the guaranteed price. We'll have the site under control, and we can be moving in earnest, even if we haven't moved on early packages ahead of that. What then happens is now construction documents are completed. It's probably going to take another 8 months for all of the construction documents to be completed by the architect of record, now working for the design build team. This criteria architect approves those for conformance with the design intent, and construction activities will be going on simultaneously. Early packages, you can start on construction, but the whole effort probably is done in 8 months. And then our criteria architect has some limited construction administration services, but that is the scope of services that we are talking about. So with that in mind, I now want to turn to the criteria architect selection process. And Nicole?
Yep.
Can you, if you can go ahead, and I have your slides up, and if you can walk us through the process and just tell me when you want me to flip the slides, we'll be all set.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. Nicole English in Public Works. And so the Department of Public Works released the Criteria Architect RFQ. We followed our standard county procedure, and it was issued on April 7th. We held a pre-bid conference on April 16th where all the interested parties could call in, ask questions. We went over the scope of services and what they needed to do to submit. Their submissions were due on May 4th to the Department of OPD in our county building. And then we took those submissions and we've given them out to the selection committee, which you can see on the left side of the slide. which made up of people from the steering committee and our administrative staff at the county. We did scoring on May 11th. We met as a committee, discussed all the proposals, and we scored the proposals in order to get to a short list. And then we interviewed and made final selections on May 19th. The next slide's going to go through how many we got. There we go. So the RFQ responses, we got 5 responses from the 5 firms that are listed to the left. The ones in green are the ones that scored high enough to be able to be interviewed. And so that was DLR, who's our current programming team, HDR, and HOK. So then once they were shortlisted, they actually came in person for the interviews. They brought 4 people in person and then had some people on Zoom. So we were able to meet the project managers and ask questions and talk further about their proposals. So out of the shortlist, the consensus that we had from the selection committee was that HOK was the recommended architect to proceed with this project. Here was our initial evaluation. So this was what we did in order to shortlist the firms. You can see that we scored them based on firms' experience. So what kind of experience they have with this type of project. Their staff experience, looking at both their project manager and then all their support staff, including sub-consultants. And that would be also the diversity goals that they're planning to meet, where it's SBE, WBE, and MBE goals that we set as a county. And then the project methodology was scored. That's based on how they're going to do our project. And then geographic location is just if they have a main office in Cleveland where they're going to do most of their work, or in Cuyahoga County, they got the full 5 points. So all 5 of them did present that. And then previous work is if within the last 2 years, if they have contracts with the county public works department, they would have gotten less points for the more work they have. So you'll see AECOM has some significant work with the county right now. They only got 3 points. DLR had an amendment to their contract. They got 9 points. The other 3 firms got 10. So you can see how the scores worked out. Out of the short list, HOK was highest ranked going into the interviews, and the committee voted that they wanted to keep that as HOK being the highest after we interviewed. Their PM that they proposed, his name is Jason Wandersee. You'll meet him and I'm sure get very familiar with him. The 4 people on sort of the bigger top of the screen there, Jeff, Jason, Scott, and Kristen, is who came in person, and we met with them. And then the other people that are shown on the screen were on Zoom, and we were able to talk with them as well. They represent some of their sub-consultants, their local team, and the people who are really going to, be the boots on the ground that we're going to see. The main reason that we selected HOK, this matrix, while it's very small on this slide, you can kind of understand what we're trying to get across. They showed all their projects over the last 10 years or so, and then all the different subjects over the top that align with our project. So you can see all these different dots are really showing that they have done a good amount of criteria architect work for correction centers, and with all these different components that we're going to need for our project. So they had a really breadth of experience. And then I'm showing on the top their Cuyahoga County participation. Those are all those local firms that are going to be working on the project. And they showed a total of 69% of the work was going to be done locally, which is pretty important to us. And we have a national expert, but also the local team that's going to be working on the project. The middle piece of blue there is just showing that their team, they've worked on 120 plus projects together, 1,000 projects in the state of Ohio. So there's just some other factors here that we just felt made this HOK team very strong. I did want to make the point that all of the teams that came in, especially the 3 that we interviewed, were very strong. I think the selection committee, if anyone wants to speak, were kind of even surprised how difficult it was to make the decision. They all presented really good information, and there was pluses and minuses for all the teams, but at the end of the day, we have to pick one, and we just felt that HOK was the best suited to do our project. Jeff, is there another slide? Oh, this is just the next steps. I think Jeff kind of talked through this. We're getting approval today, hopefully from the steering committee of our selection. We're working to finalize the contract in the next few days. And then we plan to present the contract to county council on the June 22nd meeting. And then we'll start the design process once approved by county council. So I just wanted to open it up. If anybody on the selection committee wanted to say anything about how it went or what you feel about the selected consultant, feel free.
I just thought that the process was exhaustive, far more detailed than I imagined it would be. And I can't say it any better than Nicole did. It was an impossible selection once we got to the 3, which I considered to be a nice problem to have.
I just wanted to touch on the contracting, that after HOK, the amount of the local work that was going to, you obviously know that was a big concern of mine, how much of the local work was going to be provided from our locals. And just wanted to make sure that was in their contract. I know we've talked about it, but it was expressed when they came in and they did the interviews, but just want to make sure that shows up in the contracts, that we've made sure that the people who are going to do the work are from Cleveland for the most part, or when can.
And Bill, that is taken care of, by the way. If you take a look at that percentage up there in that blue box, it's a very large percentage, as you can see. And the answer to that is that the contract does basically enforce the promises to do this and the methodology. I should say before we just on this score, a couple other points. Prior to hearing from these teams, we prepared a very comprehensive contract, submitted it to the teams, got their comments in advance, so we knew if there were any issues. What we are doing, and obviously we're not finalizing this until we get these approvals, but we have been negotiating the contract because we want to move very, very quickly. We have been reviewing in detail the scope to make sure that every scope item is covered, and to make sure and we do what's called a differentiation document. So it's very clear what these guys are doing, what the county is still responsible to do, what eventually the design builder will do, because we want to get this very well orchestrated and make sure that we're costing it properly. We've had very significant negotiations on price, and those are going well. Obviously, there's always a negotiation on price that we're doing, but we feel very good about the contract negotiation. So that part is going well right now. So any other comments from any other member? We're going to have the ability when we put this up for people from the committee to ask questions. But first, any other comments from anyone that served on the selection committee? Okay, so we'll move on to the determination that we're asking for. So this is the text of the determination. The steering committee approves the selection of the HOK design team as the criteria architect for the new Cuyahoga County Corrections Center. And that, by the way, does include Sheriff's Administration in that definition. It does say that retention is subject to negotiation of an acceptable contract. And obviously, at the end of the day, it's always up to the approval of County Council. So let me first, Steve Zanoni, I think you confirmed that we received no public comment on this.
That is correct. We received no public comments.
Okay, so let me then turn this over to discussion or any questions by anybody from the committee. No further, if there's no further discussion or questions, I would ask for a motion by a member of the steering committee to pass this determination.
The sheriff will move.
Thank you, Sheriff. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. And then what we'll now do is, I doubt there's any further discussion at this point, so I'm going to go ahead and do the roll call vote on this determination. Mr. Budish?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Ms. Langhenry?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly? Mr. Kelly still with us? Or Mr. McCormick? Okay, he may have dropped off. Judge Russo,
Yes.
Judge Celebrezzi,
Yes.
Judge Early,
Yes.
Mr. O'Malley,
Yes.
and Mr. Sweeney.
Yes.
Sheriff, who made the motion, hopefully you'll say yes.
Yes.
The County Clerk Byrd
Yes.
and Ms. Bates, Municipal Court Clerk.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And we will keep you apprised of our progress. I do want to make one comment before we move on. As we transition, I want to thank thank DLR, the DLR led team for everything they've done on programming. We are transitioning to HOK for jail design, but the DLR led team, the team led by Andy Couples, with support, consultants from Pulitzer, Curtis Pulitzer, Karen Chen, Dan Wiley, Chuck Short. I think they did an outstanding job in helping us through the programming process. They will still be available for programming on the courts, but the entire design, the whole transition on design to the jail now moves over to the HOK team. So I just wanted to thank them. And I wanted to publicly state that I thought they did just an outstanding job and really were highly supportive of everything that the county needed. And I think we have a great program to move forward. So my thanks to them. At this point, we are at that point in the process where we want to talk about moving into executive session for the public purpose, or for the purpose of talking about property acquisition for public purpose, excuse me. I want to take a break because I do need to set up the room, but I think Mr. Gallagher, you told me at the outset of the session that you wanted to make a comment and have a brief discussion about an aspect of this.
Yeah, Jeff, thank you very much. We're moving into a very delicate area and a very important part of getting this project done. And I think the last thing we need right now is any potential missteps. I think executive session is meant for the committee itself, and anyone outside, literally those people on the committee, I don't think should be in this meeting, in this executive session, only due to the fact that we're going to probably hear things that we certainly don't want out in public. We don't want potential slips of information. I think we need to hold accountable the committee, and I think the committee's honorable in their mission. And I just think we need to keep the scope of this executive committee meeting to that group of individuals that will be taking responsibility of pursuing a major land purchase for a major opportunity for Cuyahoga County. And we will be held accountable if individually, if something were to get out. I don't anticipate it would, but if we expand the group, even to say my guys with Trevor or Brendan, it just expands the potential of an accidental slip, and that's what we don't need right now. So I would like to hear from the committee members as far as going forward, at least in this executive session, with us individuals that are on the committee and are ultimately responsible for all the information within the confines of that committee.
Just to be clear, so the difference would be in what we've done for this committee in the past, kind of like, and there's no model for this, but kind of like what would have occurred with the council executive session. Normally those people who come into the session, they can also designate who's critical on your staff, but it's awkward. It is awkward because we also have different people on the committee. Some designate nobody, some designate a lot of individuals. So I think the proposal that Mike is making, at least for this session, is that this be limited to executive committee members. So I think that's what you want to be heard on.
That's correct.
Can we hear from other members of the committee on this?
This is Michael Melly. I'm fully supportive of that. If he's going to make it a motion, I'm fully supportive of that idea.
As a non-committee member, I also agree with the councilman and would be happy not to be in the executive session. I think the tighter, the better.
This is Armand. I agree.
Naila, I'm in full agreement with Councilman Gallagher's proposal.
This is Judge Early. I have no objection.
John Russo, I think the agreement calls for something like this, and I don't object to it at all.
I don't object. I do not object either.
I think it's prudent.
Okay. Not sure if we heard from everybody, but is there any executive committee member that has an objection? Okay, hearing none, here's what I'm going to do. It is 9:52. Why don't we do this? I'm going to go ahead and reset, and I'm going to set a executive session. Why don't you take an 8-minute break, and we'll reconvene at 10 o'clock in executive session. When you come back to your computer, if you leave, you'll see an invitation to join a room which is set up for the executive session, and you're going to have to just accept going into the room. So we'll reconvene an executive session in about 8 minutes at 10 o'clock.
Jeff, do we need a motion on that?
Oh, I'm sorry, I completely forgot. We need to take a roll call vote. My mistake, Mike.
I will make that motion, and I appreciate the committee's understanding.
Yeah, and thank you for reminding me. I jumped ahead, and
I'll second the motion.
Second to the motion. Now we do have to take a roll call vote to go into executive session. And thank you. County Executive Budish.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Ms. Langhenry.
Yes.
Do we have either Mr. Kelly or Mr. McCormick? Judge Russo.
Yes.
Judge Celebrezzi.
Yes.
Judge Early.
Yes.
Mr. O'Malley.
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes.
Sheriff Villain.
Yes.
Ms. Byrd.
Yes.
And Ms. Bates.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll set up the meeting. We'll reconvene in 7 minutes at 10 o'clock. Thank you. Is Kim Bates on the line?
Jeff, do you stop the streaming or does IT?
IT is supposed to stop the streaming.
Okay, I just want to be sure that happens.
Yeah. Can you confirm one thing, Nicole, that Kim Bates, I don't see her name, but I see a phone number 216-587-7239. I don't know who else's number that is, and I assume that's Kim's. Any idea?
No, I have no idea, but shoot, I can't remember when she was saying yes on the last
I think it's her.
meeting.
I'll check when we get into the room.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So Jeff, is this executive session room? Because you still seem to have excess people.
No, you're not in the executive session. You're in the
Okay.
main room.
Okay.
I'm going to join the executive session now, okay? And everything else should be closed. Thank you. Okay. Let me just check with Steve Zanoni. I have an email that at a point in time, we didn't have any additional public comment. We're back in from executive session. Steve, are you on the line still? Let me just check one more time to be sure. Okay, I see no evidence that we have any additional public comment. Just a couple words about next steps. The county is going through the process with the approval by the steering committee of the criteria architect. We are going through a process with the county with a couple of meetings coming up. And I believe one meeting I do know about is on the 29th of June, and there will be and Mike Gallagher, do we know what committee, is that a committee of the whole on the 29th or a council? What is the 29th meeting?
It's going to be a safety committee, but the whole council will be in attendance.
Okay, and at that time, just so everyone knows, we are going to talk about the criteria architect, but we'll also be making a full-blown presentation to council as to really what the status of this overall project is. So it'll be a rather lengthy meeting where we'll share with council a lot of what everybody on this call has been seeing for the last almost 2 years now, or however long it's been that we've been doing this. We are in the process of preparing. We have drafted the RFQ. We've actually drafted both the RFQ and the RFP for the design builder, who will be the next party involved. And we're actually working on the preparation of that contract. What we want to do is, as soon as we have the criteria architect on board, we are going to go out for the RFQ to select our design builder and to go through that process quickly, because there's a real advantage in this system to also get your design builder on board quickly, because they are available to start to look at constructability issues, to estimate our costs, and to really work as a team. So that will be one of the next steps. Don't know yet when the next meeting will be. That kind of depends a little bit on where we are on a few of the other action items that we have, but we will make an announcement shortly, public announcement as to when that next meeting will take place. So with that in mind, I think that concludes our business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Don't move.
And second?
Sheriff will second.
And let's take a voice vote. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the session is completed. Thank you all very much for your efforts today. And we'll let you know as soon as we can about the timing for the next meeting. Thank you very much.